The game of chess, as you know, it's very similar to life. And life is never predictable. Life is always very complex. A lot of things have been written about life, how to be a successful person, how to be a champion, and sort of things. Yet, reading those things are not by itself enough to be successful. Why? Because there's always a combination of various ideas, and very often in life, there are ideas which are in conflict with each other, but must be used, must be combined. A confluence of ideas is what we do in life. And chess being the same, we do it very regularly, very often. All of you must be aware that chess is a game of warfare, a war between two armies with equal material, equal sort of army. The strength of the army is the same. The object is to capture the king. The object is not to destroy each and every member of the enemy army, but to capture the king before your king is captured. Once a king is captured, the game is over. So naturally, there's opportunity given to both, but one who is able to arrive at the final conclusion of a checkmate is the one who is champion. And naturally, the first principle, which is by itself in its contrast, is attack is the best defense. As you see, in a game of chess, attack is the best defense. Why it's said? We'll start with an example of a very important game from a Carlsen-Anand match that took place, and I had the opportunity of watching. Carlsen got into a position where he couldn't improve his defense. His king was caught in a particular situation. And all Anand had to do is to bring his rook out 2 steps and deliver the checkmate on the 3rd move. Yet, this game was won by Carlsen. Why? Because he kept on attacking Anand's king, and after 10 or 15 moves, it became obvious that Anand had to defend all those, and eventually the option of attack was left only to Carlsen. Carlsen checkmated Anand when Anand was about to checkmate him on the next move. So again, you see the battle ended there. And then we look at life. When there's a war between two countries, some country attacks the border. Obviously, we are not going to have our army defending that spot. What we do is, obviously, we counter-attack, we attack the spot. So it's something in chess we use, it's also in life. And perhaps we go to in a deeper sense, in a more civilized way perhaps, but in a corporate war. In a corporate war also, when we try to promote our product, we also try to attack in some way. We try to expose the product of other companies. So it's something which is contradictory, because when you defend more successfully. But is that your aim? No, aim in life is always complicated to excel. And excellence doesn't come with defense. It doesn't come with rash attack as well. It comes with a combination. So again, you have to combine two ideas. The nature of game of chess is basically such that it's a combination of science as well as art. It's a combination of logical thinking and arithmetic. Now, how these two conflicting things can be utilized in a game of chess? If they aren't, obviously you are not going to succeed. What happens in a game of chess is you acquire knowledge. That's basically logic-based. In a warfare, you know that you have a larger number of army, you are going to beat the army, provided you keep your king safe. That's all said and done very well. How to do it? We make a move. Opponent makes a move. We anticipate. What it boils down is our logical thinking, our strategy enables us to build a position. We build a position, and then our opponent also tries to build a position. Sometimes we get better, sometimes he gets better, he or she gets better. Then comes the arithmetical, the mathematical part of it, which is exactly contrary to what we are actually been doing. We have been building the position. At one stage, we take a decision. We know that now we are ready to strike. But ready to strike without proper arithmetical calculation is not possible. The three important things in game of chess, that is what is to be done, why it is to be done. They are both logical and strategic. How it is to be done, it is the creativity, it is the implementation, it is the arithmetical part of it. So in every game of chess, you use these two contrary ideas, logic and arithmetic. When to use arithmetic and when to use logic. Yes, building up a position, that is logic, and giving a final blow, that is arithmetic, contrary to each other. Another point I would say, you must have heard a word gambit in chess. Of course, it's very common, gambit or sacrifice. Since the object of your game is to capture the enemy king and not to be ahead in material. It's not that you're left with 2 chessmen and your opponent is not left with any chessmen. That's not the winning point. The winning point is the capture of the king. Capture of the king can be done even at the cost of some material, as we call it. Why? Because king in itself is a weak piece in chess. And then what we do is we capture the very few pieces are enough to capture the enemy king. So what we do at times, we sacrifice something, tempt the opponent, lure the opponent to capturing it. Opponent is happy, opponent has won your queen, opponent is ahead in material, opponent is waiting for the time when pieces get exchanged and you win. At that time, you deliver a checkmate. The sacrifice is a planned idea where you give something and you capture the king. Then the game ends. Eventually, if the game had lasted, then you would have lost the game. But you already captured the enemy, game ends, the victory is there. The Gambit is the same concept with a different and more vague, more abstract way of doing it. Gambit is when you give up something which is contrary to the basic law. Larger the army, win is more likely. But you give up something. When you give up something, what do you get in compensation? Compensation is something by way of posting your pieces in a more favorable position. When you are more favorable position, you are likely to succeed in attack more. So although you are basically in a inferior position material-wise, and if nothing happens in next 10 moves, you could lose. But you try to do something in those 10 moves by way of gambit. That's one of the concepts, that the entire concept of a sacrifice and gambit is contrary to what the concept of chess is. Larger the army, a win is sure, because that's the basic concept. And that's why being a serious chess player and an author are different things. There are many great players who have not been good authors, and there are many good chess authors who have never been able to do well, because the decision making, which is very important, they have not been able to do. Now we'll come again to the portion of inspiration and perspiration, as it's commonly said, because great personality Thomas Alva Edison, he said that a genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Absolutely true. But then genius, there is a genius within everybody. We all are genius. Perhaps we do not know which field we are at genius at. And the successful ones are able to understand what we are good at. Combining inspiration and perspiration is of course difficult, because a person who has something natural gets a sort of gets a recognition at an early age. People say that he's better than others. But then can this work without perspiration? To some particular level, yes. Take case of Vishwanathan Anand, the lightning kid who defeated grandmasters in 10 minutes of time when grandmasters was taking a couple of hours. Till 1991, he had a very smooth run, a very quick player, but he met none other than Anatoly Karpov, the world champion. During his match with Karpov, Anand realized that his genius was unable to beat the world champion. Maybe Anand was good enough to be world number 3 or 4, but not good enough to beat Kasparov and Karpov. And he changed his habit of playing quickly. He started thinking more. It's the 90s, he started studying, although he started playing in the 80s. Till 90s, he was a natural gifted player, a genius, who eventually turned out. And there was a time when he played a match with Kasparov, he was studying 18 hours a day. So that is why genius has to realize that without perspiration, we will not be able to do anything. Take case of Edison himself. Before we saw the bulb, electric bulb, which actually survived and sustained the challenges in the field of physics, he had attempted more than 900 times, I believe, and he had failed because the wire would fuse away, it would burn. So, had there not been perspiration, we would be reading in candlelight. So again, both these things, which are contrary to each other, have to be combined in life. If we say that I am a genius, I can do anything, it doesn't work. And a common man who doesn't try to think independently, who doesn't try to tap the genius within him or her, is also not going to be at the top. Yes, you could be a mediocre, but if you want to, because since you are management people, you're going to top some institute. When you're going to top, you need a sort of fundamental creative thinking. It's not just, you cannot be a routine, because in that case you will not be able to manage. So these things that wake up and find out the genius within yourself and tell the genius that you have to also perspire. These both things also are very important. Another thing is hard work and rest, which are two things which again are in contrast, but both are very important. As Sir Don Bradman was successful in life, he often said that he was able to do it because he started getting up 2 hours earlier. Earlier he was getting up at 8 o'clock and he started getting up at 6 o'clock, and he started practicing, reducing the sleep by 2 hours. But again, one of the chess world champions, lady world champions from China, Hu Yifan, at the age of 16, she became world champion, world women's champion, and she said that hard work is important, study is important, but at the same time, rest is important. That's also a very important thing, because we do hard work. Before the game, we do hard work, and then if you're tired during the game, obviously you're not going to perform. Every game of chess, every tournament is a test of your creativity, and creativity is still the ultimate result of the game, that your opponent succumbs, you win the game. If you're not fully energetic at that time, then you're not going to win the game. So obviously, it is us to decide. Each and every one has a different physiology, and we are going to decide what amount of rest we require and what amount of hard work we require. What I tell my students is not what suits me. I try to find out what suits them, because what suits me will not suit others. So there are some of the quite important factors, I think. We'll also think of a strategy of retreat. In a warfare, retreat is normally not correct, because the war is for occupying the territory, and the life is for going ahead, being successful. Then how the retreat would work? We go back to the field of game, when sometimes we feel that our position is not strong enough to go for a direct battle. A war is not always won by 1 or 2 battles. It's won by the final decisive battle. War goes through various battles. Similarly, the game of chess goes through various battles. If you are not ready for a final battle, then you retreat. When you retreat, what happens is you create a fortress. You create a fortress, your opponent is not able to break through the fortress. Now the side effects of an unsuccessful attack, as you can see in the Second World War. In the Second World War, it became this retreat concept was used by Soviets in the Second World War. As you see, Hitler was very prominent, and he evaded through the Soviet territory, and Soviet just retreated. They retreated to the extent that Hitler's energy probably, and the drive of the energy was no longer there, and the winter started, and at that time, the situation, the thing was turned. So in a game of chess, very often if you are retreating and defending yourself, because if you have to form a fortress against a stronger enemy, stronger army, then you are not going to try an attempt of a counter-attack. Instead, you defend, you create a fortress. Again, that's contrary to what I said, because attack is the best defense, but at the same time, it doesn't work. In that case, you go for a retreat, and then you wait for opportunity to bounce back. There's always the rule of elasticity, that if you are tied down to a particular extent, your opponent is crushing you to a particular extent, there is suddenly momentum will be released, and you will be able to bounce back. You're looking for an opportunity. Again, we have to use that. We have to realize that the potential strength in our passive position or our defensive position is very important. A very basic chess principle is, when you move a pawn, you create a weakness. Because again, contrary philosophy or contrary theory of chess is to occupy the center. So how do I occupy center unless I move my pawns forth and get my pieces in center? So obviously these two have to be combined in a proper way, that you also get center control, and you also have an availability of defending your weaknesses. Every time a weakness is created, you need to have a recourse for that sort of weakness that is created, and that's why the center control, the basic idea, which is just like a normal idea in the life. Diet also plays a very important role in sport, because in all sport they say that if you are having a full stomach, then you can't do well, and that's true with chess also. You would be wondering why, but if you have eaten very large meal, then you feel very sleepy, and feeling sleepy is not possible in an intellectual game where you have to be alert. Now how do you solve this problem? Then you have to work it out, because if you're hungry, then obviously you're not going to do well. Chess games go on for 4 or 5 hours continuously. If you're not eaten properly before the game, you could be doing well in first 2 hours, and what happens after that? The result is going to be decided after that. So obviously it is us to think of those two things, that when the diet is there and when the proper proper food we have taken so that we are not feeling hungry, neither are we feeling sleepy. That's during the course of the game. It's very important. It's a very important decision which change with everybody. There are something which is like a preparation, hard work, and when the hard work takes, you create expertise. But when there's expertise, and if expertise doesn't work, then what do? There are examples where you can try something which you don't know, which is again contrary, because we are playing a knowledge-based game, and here we are referring to something which we are not aware of. And yet we call it something like a backup system where a lot of risk is involved. We go back to the Kasparov-Anand match that we're all thrilled when Anand won the first game. 9th game was won by Anand. And he beat Kasparov in a system where Kasparov has not lost any game even against Karpov. And at that stage, we were expecting a smooth victory for Anand. And then suddenly, Kasparov came up with a system which he had never played in life. It was a gamble, of course, because he was not exposed to it. He was not an expert of it. Yet it worked because Anand was not also an expert of it. Anand did not expect it. So again, he combined the risk element. He took the risk because he was lagging behind. He decided to take a risk. Okay, I am going into unknown territory with the hope that my opponent is also going to unknown territory. And there it is, best of him and best of me. I am going to decide that. And that worked, and he won 2 games, and the match, he was through the match. So as we see, the various concepts in life are very similar to the various concepts in the game. Again, a very important thing is, we may not have a qualitatively better piece than the opponent. Sometimes it happens that your position is bad, or qualitative piece is not qualitatively as good as the piece of the opponent. What do? We surrender? Do we say that I'm going to lose this game? No. We try to deploy the piece at a different place. Something which is very common for a chess player, that deploy this useless piece at a place where it will be useful. There's a term in chess, bad bishop, if you have heard. Bad bishop is obviously the one which is hemmed inside the pawn chain and cannot move outside, has no attacking value. But it's a great defensive value because it defends all its pawns. So it also has a very significant. As management trainees, you know that it's very important in HR to put a right person in right field. Everybody is talented in one or other way. And what we do on the chessboard, we actually do in life. When you grow up, you're going to do it subconsciously. When you do it consciously, you're likely to be better. What I feel is, when you do it consciously, you try to find out what are the merits and demerits of a person and post him. You do it in a chess player's way, perhaps you'll be more successful. That's my idea of suggesting it. Another point is, at some stage, chess is a time-bound game, and so is life. So we need to make decisions. At times we need to make decisions. And chess being a clock-monitored game, sometimes you must play moves in very short time. How do you play in very short time? You need to develop some skills. So when you develop the skills, how do you develop the skills? We obviously create a judgment. So we study a lot. We make educated guesses, we judge the position, and then we take the decisions. They are impulsive decisions, but because we are experts, we take right decisions. These are some of the things I wanted to share, how chess resembles life, and if you play it like a game of chess, I think it will be better for you. I wish good luck to all of you. Thank you.